Hi, how's it going, folks? CR here. Well, it's no shock that there are certain people that really just are not fans of the Second Amendment, do not like the Second Amendment, and will make up anything about the Second Amendment in order to taint it, in order to either push for a repeal of the Second Amendment, or even if they can't get a repeal of the Second Amendment, will make it so people are comfortable with violating it, even though it is a portion of our Constitution. And by the way, right now, these people have no intentions of actually putting forth the effort to actually repeal the Second Amendment, and these people aren't honest enough to come out and say, you know what, we don't like the idea of people being able to own firearms, weapons, and stuff like that. And we don't like the idea that there is an amendment to the Constitution, a portion of our Bill of Rights, that specifically protects an individual right to be able to possess and own these things and carry these things. So, what they do instead is engage in a smear campaign. So, I want to address one of these smear campaigns. There's actually two of them, but they're related. First being the idea that this was put up solely to protect slave patrols. First off, I mean, you can simply read the text of the Second Amendment, and you'll find that that's not true. What the Second Amendment says again, and I know anybody who's paid attention to this debate for 5 minutes or more can recite it: a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Basically, they didn't want the government to have a monopoly on the weapons. They wanted civilians to be able to form their own militias. This is part for national defense, but this is also in part to protect themselves from a tyrannical government. Personal protection and hunting and stuff like that, founders saw that as, kind of goes without saying. Moreover, just simply protection on the right to keep and bear arms in general would offer, by extent, protection to those rights as well. So, obviously, we can tell that this was not set up for slave patrols. These very same people will cite, that slaves, and once slavery ended, freed blacks were prohibited from owning weapons. And that's true, first off, with the slaves. Slaves were slaves, and all of their rights were being violated. Well, you're violating all their rights anyway. I mean, the fact of the matter is, you're probably not going to recognize that right for them to own and carry weapons. There are certain exceptions to the rule historically where slaves have been armed, but these are exceptions to the rule, not the rule itself. Now, we took care of slavery in this country for the most part with the 13th Amendment, which prohibits slavery with the exception of it being used as a penalty for a crime. After that happened, you have some racist and people who did not like the idea of free slaves owning firearms or weapons of any sort. So they still continue to try to violate their rights. And their justification at that point was that these people were just freed slaves, they were not U.S. citizens. Well, we rectified that with the 14th Amendment. Basically, with the 14th Amendment, said, hey, they were born here, they're not, just setting foot on this country's soil. They've been here for generations. They're citizens too. You have to respect their rights. Now, obviously, this did not stop racist from still doing so, from still trying to violate their rights one way, shape, form, or the other. And this is why there was such a massive fight about this in our country. So, with that being said, just because constitutional rights were violated in this country doesn't mean that they were any less of a violation just because the perpetrators got away with it for some period of time. The next example that was used was, the Indians, the indigenous people, the Native Americans, whatever you want to call them. Yes, in the first 100-something years of our country, we had our government disarming them. Their rights to keep and bear arms were not protected. The U.S. government, nor did anybody else in our population, nor did they themselves recognize themselves as U.S. citizens. They considered themselves members of the Cherokee Nation, the Choctaw Nation, the Sioux Nation, the Comanche Nation, the Apache Nation. And to a degree today, these nations, these tribes are recognized as independent nations, even with this, even in our own country. Now, they also have U.S. citizenship today because in 1924 we passed a bill granting all these tribal nations, all the members of these tribal nations, U.S. citizenship as well. But prior to that, during the time when we were disarming them, we were taking their land and putting them on reservations. Well, yeah, they were not considered U.S. citizenships. They were considered a foreign nation, and oftentimes a hostile foreign nation. So that should put some more clarity on that situation. I didn't even think I had to say any of this. I think it's ridiculous that I have to bring this up, and this should have been taught in history. And for the stuff that wasn't taught in history, some of these finer points, it doesn't take much research and a little bit of critical thinking to kind of figure out that, hey, this is what happened. And I'm shocked that I even have to do this video. But anybody thinks that what I say is incorrect or wrong or untrue, you guys can go ahead and put that in the comment section. I do read my comment section, obviously, and I have it open. I'm very much so a free speech guy myself. And guess what? Unlike some of these other gun controllers, and some of these other petulant tyrants, I am open to discussions on issues when I can get around to them. So thank you all for watching. Y'all take her easy out there and have a great day.